for Starbow Ladder Cup. I'll explain why it's the Ladder Cup in just a second. Spawning in the lower right corner of the map, though, the yellow Zerg player, Franscar. And Grubba Hubba, say hello to Sweden for me, my friend. From Canada, with love. His opponent in the lower left, though, the blue Protoss player, RSVP, who just impressed me. Literally, I haven't nearly cast as much Starbow as I have regular StarCraft, but he's actually the first person I've seen use Blink Stalkers and win. Blink Stalkers and Starbow guys are really not the same Blink Stalkers you're used to seeing, and they're not nearly as effective, but at any rate, we find ourselves on Andromeda for the Ladder Cup. Now, you might be wondering, why is this a Ladder Cup? What does that mean? There's no in-game ladder for Starbow, unfortunately. Since it's a free game and since it's available through the arcade, Blizzard doesn't have any system implemented for tracking your progress, tracking how well you're doing in terms of Starbow. So what these guys did was they set up a ladder. You can see the ladder and all other sorts of information at starbowmod.com. And when you check that out, you see like, oh, these guys have like thousands of points. What does that mean? Well, that means that they're high enough of the ladder ranking. It's not at all unlike your bonus pool / hidden MMR type thing. That being said, you could only compete in this tournament today if you had a certain amount of ladder ranking. So you couldn't just pick up and play for free. You had to have actually played a lot of Starbow, grinded it out, got that ladder point system under your control, and to be able to compete. Now, as we get down here towards the finals, it's kind of going to be like who's the best ladderer for the moment, because it's not about who's got the most points, it's about who's going to win this tournament, and it's going to come down to two players. One of these two, and to Red Bandit. Now, I'm not saying his name funny, it is literally like T-E-H, Red Bandit, but he's a Zerg player who put on a lot of good games. I would highly recommend checking out the VODs of Red Bandit versus Nazdi. It was a really good series and it was a lot of good fun, but this one here has been not too shabby either. Now in game number 3, we see RSVP once again going to go for his cannon shenanigans, his shenanigans, if you will. And is there not enough space to work through these mineral lines? Ooh, that is rough, actually. So with only 2 pylons, he locks down a position here that's actually way better to defend than the previous cannon rush he attempted before. I like that cancel, actually. I mean, you really don't want to invest too much into this. Like we saw last time, cannon rushes invested that don't pay out are quite costly. Now, it's worth noting, guys, while this is going on, that well, this cannon rush actually will go off this time. It looks like Franscar is not going to be able to defend it as easily. The key thing about this is this isn't the end of the game for him. This is not like regular StarCraft 2. You get enough economy off of one base that you can recover from this. The downside, and the big problem with it though, is you're not going to have as much larva production. Injects are different in Starbow than they are in StarCraft 2. And actually, I like this queen on the high ground. This is actually key. Having the probe on the high ground allows the cannon to see the queen on the high ground. That being said, looks like she is going to try and pick off the cannon. Why can't we just pick her off instead? No, it does go down. Should probably cancel the rest of this at this point. It's pretty much done for. I like the cannon on the high ground, or the pylon on the high ground. That's a cute move, but RSVP is not going to get a lot more done with this. So rather than investing more, should really just back off with what he's got, because he didn't kill a single unit. Really well held here by Franscar. Now a counterattack is what I would honestly love to see a little bit more, perhaps. Probe does go down, but instead going to clean up the pylons for the time being. It's got a couple things moving out across the map. I mean, there's going to be some SimCity, but this is a large choke on this map. He's got to take that into consideration. So Franscar coming across the map should be able to slip a lot of these lings by, and if he had all 10 with him instead of just 6, he would certainly be able to do just that. But now there's a full wall off, and he's not going to be able to chip through this anytime soon. Sees that with the drone, actually, as the drone dies in a very valiant way. But okay, poised, postured, ready to go. Unfortunately, doesn't quite have enough to break this wall anytime soon. So, taking map control for the time being might be his best bet. Still chipping away at this one pylon. You go, Zergling. I believe. But okay, while this is going on and while this is... Oh, he's actually going to go for it. Pylon does go down. He's going to fully wall this off. Oh boy. Okay, backs on out of this for the time being. Franscar is in no real danger at the moment, but unfortunately can't apply too much aggression either. I'm sorry, someone just needs to get unbanned from chat apparently. Let me go fix that real quick. There we go. But anyways, Catron crystals are on the way, so RSVP can start his chrono boosting. Of course, if you missed my quick explanation earlier, Nexuses do not come with the Chrono Boost ability built in. You have to actually upgrade the Cadrian Crystal on top of it. We got Hydrosin actually coming out really early. This is peculiar to me. Franscar, I mean, he showed that he liked Hydrosin game number 1, and Lurkers are kind of a cool contain, but I mean, Lurkers, they've got their place in the game, and so do Hydralisk, but it's not typically in the early game. Yeah, well, we'll see what he ends up doing. RSVP coming across the map with a lot of Zealots right now. There's too many Lings, though. Combined with the Spine Caller, there's no way he breaks this anytime soon. I like this hatchery coming down here, though. It creates a bit of a choke, and you're going to have macro hatcheries one way or another. So by having it over here actually is a really nice way to have it on the forward lines to create a bit of a wall off. Again, I kind of like, this is the thing about Starbow that I find hilarious, is like some of the most basic things in StarCraft 2 get forgotten in Starbow. Like what RSVP does here, like, you might think this is silly for me to bring this up, but you really don't see a lot of people create this wall off, this choke. Like, I don't know what it is. Even some of the like regular StarCraft 2 pros that tried out Starbow for a little bit kind of forgot about some of the most basic parts of the game, like double evolution chamber walls, a Roach Warren, or Hydra's Den in this instance, like trying to keep your opponent's vultures out of the base. That's happened way too many times, but nope. He's got it this time. Going with Blink Stalkers once again. Weapon upgrades on the way pretty early here as well, and these Zealots are going to be hard to deal with away from the Spine Crawler. If he had this fight at the Spine Crawler, that'd be great. And as I said before too, no bonus speed movement on creep, so Hydra's kind of just slow generally. Muscular Augment's finishing up here in a moment though. Okay, I thought I'd try smooth payment, doesn't work. Bling's gonna run into these Blink Stalkers though, and as we see, Blink Stalkers really great against light units, but that's, again, kind of like the role reversal of StarCraft 2. You're so used to seeing Blink Stalkers do the bonus damage versus armored, take down those huge beefy units, but instead, they're made more to tussle with the Zerglings in this game. And they do come pre-built with Blink, worth noting. But that being said, Blink is kind of a gimmicky mechanic to say the least. Whoa, how did he see up there? How did he get the high ground vision? Okay, irrelevant for the moment. I don't know how he did that, but okay, whatever. Blink Stalkers are going to try and run away from this. They are pretty darn quick, so we got that much going for them. Queen enrages once again, dealing a ton of damage while turned red, but they can blink over these rocks. It's a pretty safe place to hide out. So just chipping away from the high ground, doing a bit of free damage here. He hasn't really killed much with it. Gets a Ling. Woo! But a bit of a safety zone with the debris here. He's got to tear down the debris to chase down these Blink Stalkers. And again, I'm not too sure on the mechanic. Like, it's cool, but I don't really understand the mechanics of having the debris there. It's just so gimmicky. So like, the only thing I see really blocking out is like if you're Terran, you want to put a tank up here, but you can't because the debris. I don't know. Anyways, that's a hell of a lot of Zealots, guys, and they do have their charge upgrade already, so they move really fast. 3.14 pi Zealots, if you will. But Stalkers are still alive, and they're still dancing around the base, just casually screwing with Franscar's forces, but. As we see, again, this is a lot of Zealots. These two Spine Crawlers don't mean much, and if the entire Hydralisk army is up here, there's nothing protected in the natural, but RSVP doesn't know this. Gonna take out this fourth base, though, and he's gonna shred this to bits. Third base, in base, is kind of a cool move, but unfortunately, it has no geyser attached to it, so it's just mineral patches. I don't know how he saw that high ground. That bugs me, but whatever. Anyways, withdraws with a lot of his units, keeps them alive. Still more Zealots have been invested in while this is going on. Nexus on the way. He's trying to be creeped up, but thankfully he got that down in time by the looks of it. And Ventricle Sacs. Kind of cool. This is something we saw earlier today. I believe Ultralisks, Hydralisks, and Lings were what got dropped out of the Overlords, but this is a map again where that could work out. There's a lot of dead space over here. He may not even see it coming. I mean, this is... I want to see Ventricle Sacs get used, guys. I want this game to be won with Ventricle Sacs. But we got some Overseers on the way. Has he actually seen the Dark... or not the Dark Shrine, the Temple Archives? No. But he's just predicting, I guess. Safe and sorry. So still doesn't know that there are Dark Templar. I don't believe he saw that. No, no, even with his death throw, he didn't see it. That being said, totally fine. There's kind of that moment in the game where you want to make sure there's no observers or Dark Templar for that matter. So, yeah, he'll see the Dark Templar with that Overseer now. Scouting past this army. That's a lot of Zealots. Blink Stalker's going to try and get on top of this, but flying into the cannon was not the right move. Franscar going to get a good look at the army, but that's it. A look. Overseer's going to die. Man, Overseers look so weird when they die too. They like self-implode. But okay, Franscar in a pretty good spot as far as the defending goes. Again, a lot of links, some spine crawlers, even getting a couple lurkers available, but... I'm being informed right now, thanks to the delay on the stream, hashtag tournament cast, that Stalkers always have high ground vision. I didn't actually know this. So kind of like Reapers with their combat awareness back in the Heart of the Swarm beta, guys. I guess Stalkers can always see up cliffs, so... That's cool. I didn't actually know they had that built into them. Makes them even more of a utility unit and even stronger than one they had before. But at any rate, big drop's going to go down. There's lurkers in this as well to combine with Hydralisks. This is going to be a really... Oh god, this push is going to be really hard to deal with. There's not a lot of gateways in the production. He has it somewhat limited. There's no detection either once that cannon goes down, so lurkers are going to get kind of uncontested for a little bit. He brings the entire army back, but to what avail? He's got no way to detect this. He's got one observer. Where's the observer? Oh god, flying back so slowly with the army. There we go, a new one just pops out, but with the Overseer here, tries to focus it down with those Hydralisks. It's not the last one, though. He needs to keep us alive. But Zealots fighting over top of Lurkers is never a good thing, as we see they're taking a lot of damage, but this drop will not end the game. It did a ton of damage, and it certainly caught RSVP off guard, as it did draw him back home, but all he really got for this was the Templar Archives, a couple of Zealots, and a cannon. Not really worthwhile. But the attack coming through the front may end up being able to pay it off a little bit more if they didn't get choked in there. Oh, that is so unfortunate. But moving on to Hive Tech behind this. I mean, Franscar's not in a bad spot, and that was a cool move. And it was an attack he could afford to make because he has this third base, or his fourth base up and running. So he can make up that difference, but I mean, for the most part, you know, it wasn't game-ending damage. It looked cool, and it was really dangerous at first, but RSVP holds in the end. Dark Templar is going to get killed thanks to the Overseer, giving a bit of cover. But this army out of RSVP looking pretty darn scary. Coming up on level 2 weapon upgrades, there's still a lot of Zealots alive, but granted half of them are almost half dead. Yeah, Lurkers do burrow, and there's no detection on the front lines, just that one observer now. If he snipes them off, these Lurkers are going to be really difficult to deal with, but of course Lurkers, while they do a lot of damage, they are limited. They have to stay burrowed to attack, so you can't reposition him. Walking away from them is actually not difficult at all. Lurkers. Oh, Lurkers. You're so silly. Doing a ton of splash damage to anything that tries to run forward. Templar moving forward. Do have Storm. Nice hit on top of the Hydralisks. We'll catch a couple of them with that Storm, but it just doesn't have the pushing power, unfortunately. Some links running around the map to make sure there wasn't a fourth base taken while this was going on, but let's not forget, RSVP is technically on 3, as he's got that in-base expansion. I like the Sentinel a little bit later coming out. I mean, this isn't RSVP's typical Sentinel where you get it out early, cause a bunch of harass, and tear away at your workers' mineral line, but it's still going to provide the null word for the mid-game here. And if there's one thing that's already difficult enough for Hydralisks, it's their maneuverability. If you cut it down, even more so, man, it's going to hurt. Oh man, Ventricle, you guys get off my nuts in chat, sorry. It's been a long day of casting alone. But anyways, Rifkin's bashfulness aside, we have that drop set up. There's not a lot inside of it this time though, it's just 4 Hydralisks. There we go, here comes more Overlords. Hydras and Links to go with this too. This drop is not going to be game ending either by any means, but it will be very annoying to deal with. There's a couple cannons actually coming to intercept it. Well, not to intercept specifically this drop, but to intercept the drops coming from the eastern half of the map in general. I didn't realize Hydras came out kind of balled up. That's kind of cool. Cannons are overcharged, makes them attack a little bit faster. Always weird to see, but always a good thing to have. Adrenal glands are on the way, so we're going to have cracklings eventually, but while this little harass is going on, we got a big fight going up here in the north. Storm's going down, but Hydras and Links just run right through it, and out of it, consequently. But can't engage into these Zealots. Needs to fall back to the Lurker lines. Units are going to be sacrificed. Meanwhile, on the other half of the map, laying around by trying to circumvent these cannons, but unfortunately with the Chrono Boost, do attack a little bit too quick. So this base will stand for now. Both players kind of moving into that late game phase. Now we got the Ultras Cavern finished up. We got 3 Ultras on the way. We got the Ultras speed being made as a priority over top of the pneumatized Carapace. Going to send them sailing here into the late game really strong. But I mean, I'm loving the Lurkers, but they need a little bit extra, some panache, if you will, some Dark Swarm mixed into it, so they can move on top of this army a lot more easily. But even then, they only get a couple blade shots off, and they still do a ton of damage to these Zealots. Army completely stripped of its armor, and as he gets over here towards the 4th base location, it's gonna be really easy for him to just sort of bunker down and force a bad choke. Cannon's taken out now. A couple zealots do get warp gated out, but oh god, as we see, this army moves on top of the lurkers, and that is not the right move to make. He's gonna kill this. He'll clean this up, but he just lost almost all of his zealots, about half of the dragoons, for what was just a terrible positioning to the start of that fight. But still, with all the zealots gone and most of the dragoons left, it's still a force he's got to worry about. Now we got Ultras being loaded into this. It's worth noting too, guys, if you haven't noticed at this point, Ultras don't have splash damage anymore, but they attack really fast and really hard still. So they're great to use, and they've been scaled down in size, so they're not nearly as clumsy. That being said, Ultra Ling, no matter how you look at it, can be really scary if caught in the middle of the map. Oh, but I like the null words. I like the use of the scouts. But these overlords aren't going for the main again. So they're going for the natural. And there's only one cannon here to defend. Well, I guess two technically up there, but still. Ultra should have no problems dealing with this. There's really not that much here on the defense. Ultras falling out of the overlords just look funny. Even though they're not as big as they normally are, they still look hilarious. Attack over here on the west half of the map is going to clean up these dragoons as well. RSVP is struggling right now, guys. Franscar may have just taken a huge lead by getting that off because there's no army that can reinforce this. This natural base is dead. It gets shredded. And this is kind of key because it was still mining. This was a very important base to RSVP. He lost a good chunk of the probes that were here as well. He will clean this up with that giant zealot corral, but man, that was effective as he wipes the army, Franscar does, wipes the army of RSVP. But despite that, look at the resources lost, guys. This is one of the wonderful things about Starbow that makes it so interesting to watch. Doesn't matter if you get like insanely far ahead. It doesn't matter if you fall really, really far behind. The game still plays out somewhat evenly until one player just is able to dominate the other. It is, in essence, a perpetual tug-of-war. Starbow is, in my opinion, a lot more fun to watch because of this. Anyways, Ultras are going to deal with these Zealots, but the Zealots are going to deal with the Ultras a little more effectively as there's so many of them wrapping around. Lings are getting on top of these probes though, but these are such essential probes. Look at the worker count right now, guys. 73 to 42 and still falling. RSVP is, his economy's already in the gutter. He needs to keep this base up and running. Losing that natural was a big loss as well. His income has kind of been shot and his bank is non-existent, and I don't think either of these players has maxed out over the course of this game. So no death balls today. Storms, sorry, I know you guys can hear this later, but I like that chat. Storms are not worth eating, they're food poisoning. Yeah, you're not incorrect on that. This one scout is diligently trying to kill up these overlords. Should eventually be able to get 4 kills, but eventually being the key word. Top left corner of the map has got a lot of goons, and it's got a lot more zealots on top of that. But Franscar is also taking the actual physical base. I'm surprised he hasn't tried to take one of these bases. I mean, he's had vengeful stacks for so long. He could just simply drop, but goes to the middle instead. Now this is the only base in Starbow that I'm aware of, not just on this map, that has like 2 geysers. I could be wrong. Maybe Fighting Spirit or something has a base like that, but most bases only have 1 geyser. So at this point, Franscar, who's been relying a lot on very gas-heavy units like Ultralisks and now investing in Hydralisks, or sorry, has been investing in Hydralisks and now Dark Swarm or Defilers, is going to have that extra income, but another drop going down. The scout will see this, but not sure it'll matter. The army's already pulling back though, so this is good. They'll actually have units in position to fight this time, but I kind of wish he would just, I don't know, Franscar's like, just keep his opponent starved. Go for that 4th base, go for the throats. If this base falls, so does RSVP. So, like, these drop harasses are cool, and looks like this one's going to do a good chunk of damage, but, I mean, the reality is this game's about this base. This is where the focus needs to be. But Defilers coming out are going to be a lot better suited to use Plague than they were for Dark Swarm at this point. With so many Zealots available, if the Dark Swarm gets thrown down, the Zealots can still fight inside the Dark Swarm, guys. Same with the way Lings do. But Dragoons are the only thing that are affected by this. Going to break out from the inside. Or not. Dark Swarms will nullify all damage from ranged units outside of the Dark Swarm shooting into it, guys. So we see the Archons taking, or sorry, the Ultras taking no damage from the Dragoons, but as pointed out before, the Zealots can still fight within the Dark Swarm, so this is a lot better versus Terran than it is versus Protoss. But while this is going on, the army is drawn out, and looks like this 4th base is under contest. This is actually going to be a real big problem if this goes down. RSVP is already having a hard enough time getting an economy going. He's got a bank! I'll give him that much! But he's got no means of maxing out, and this Nexus is going to go down. Now, that's not going to end the game right now, but that's a good way to get ahead for Franscar at this point. Still investing in more lings. Level 2 upgrades on the way. I'm surprised he's not investing, like, level 2 weapon upgrades for ranged and melee are on the way, but this is something that should have been done a while ago, I feel. He's had a really nice lead so far this game. Or not lead, but more like control of the game, I think. Because Franscar's never been in a point where he's just a move to win, but he's been in a position where he's been taking very dominating stances on the map. Now, these storms are going to be pretty good, and they eat up about most of those lings. Now the Dragoon's going to try and kite around these Ultralisks. And Dragoons, as we see, do pretty good damage, but the Dark Swarm comes down. And now RSVP needs the kite a lot. He needs the kite a lot. A bit of shaky control there. Wasn't quite sure which way to run. But no matter which way you run, you're going to be in for some trouble. Last couple of Dragoons are going to go down. And this is pretty much it for RSVP. He's got some units at home, but good game is going to be called. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have Franscar versus the Red Bandit in the grand finals. Oh, my voice is killing me at this point, but I'm stoked for this match because these are two great players, and I've also, like I said, not seen a lot of mirror matchups in Starbow, so this finals is going to be a best of 5, and I am excited to see who's going to take it, who's going to be the first Starbow Ladder Cup champion.